Aloha. Welcome to the big island of Hawaii. I'm right here at beautiful Turtle Point, my homeland, and also the homeland of Professor Gary Lee, my third interview in the series of 6 Questions for a Legend. I'm Grandmaster Brian Kula Fung, and welcome to 6 Questions for a Legend. Professor Gary Lee, originally from Oahu, and the founder of the National Sport Karate History Museum in Houston, Texas. Also, the winningest third place finisher on the National Karate Circuit back in the 1980s. And he is also a modern day samurai. So please enjoy my interview with Professor Gary Lee, and mahalo. Professor Gary Lee, what year did you start your martial arts and with whom?
1963 in Honolulu, Hawaii, under a man named Sensei Toshiro. And I was adopted by him because my parents had been killed in a plane crash. And, I was 6 years old, and I started in the martial arts in Hawaii, and it was in a tiny little hut. And it was my first impression of martial arts. Actually, I chased the volleyball over a hill, and I saw Bobby Lowe's Kyokushinkai karate class working Siechin kata in the ocean, and I was overwhelmed by that. It was 5, 6 years old, and I hung out there, and eventually I started being trained by Toshiro.
So that's what drew you to the martial arts. It was that vision of karateka in the ocean.
Chasing the volleyball over the hill, and I saw the Kyokushinkai black belts in the ocean. The waves were hitting them, and they were doing what they call Siechin, which is a breathing kata. This, and the waves were hitting them, and it was the first time I ever saw martial arts, but it just overwhelmed me, and I knew that someday, someplace, I didn't know about the mainland yet. I knew I wanted to be a black belt, though. That was 1964 when I was doing that, and I made black belt in 1969. So.
And what's your style?
Originally, I started in Kushu Kempo. I'm a third generation Mitoshi Chow black belt. And then when I came to the States, I got involved with Okinawan Karate with Sid Campbell. American Karate with Sam Chapman, and traditional Okinawan Shorin-ryu and Kyokushinkai.
And during your martial arts tenure, did you have an idol?
Oh, number one idol was Mike Stone, but I had many. John Natividad had Mike Stone, John Natividad had Glenn Rabago. All the Hawaiians had made it to the mainland. I used to go to the drugstore, just walk to the drugstore in Honolulu, and I'd read the magazines, and I'd read about Mr. Parker and Mr. Stone and Mr. Natividad, and I just melted when I saw them or read about them in the magazines.
And of course, you have to add Al Dacascos in there as well.
Al Dacascos was there also, absolutely.
And who gave you your first black belt, and who gave you your last ranking?
Well, that's a good question. My first black belt came from Mr. Toshiro, and I made black belt at 14. And I remember vividly, I used to sit on the edge of the ocean, and after all the magazines, and you remember I lived in a hut. I never had television or TV or radios or anything. And I lived everything by magazines, by going to the drugstore. And when I made black belt at 14, I knew I wanted to go to the mainland. And I was destined in my heart, somehow I'd go to the mainland. I got a one-way ticket from Toshiro, and I thought I had done something wrong, that I had hurt him. But instead, he sent me to America, and I was adopted by the Lee family. My real name is Hiroshi, and my adopted name is Lee. So I'm Japanese Hawaiian, but I have a Chinese last name.
And what has been your biggest aha moment pertaining to the martial arts?
You know, I've been very lucky, but my biggest aha moment was winning the Golden Greek Award. You know, the rings, the NBL championships, they're all great, but being recognized by Texas competitors like Alan Steen and being part of that tree and winning the Golden Greek Award meant I was the best MVP player in Texas in 1997. Of course, it took me 17 years to win the Golden Greek. Mr. Lee, Eric Lee, tells that I've won more third places than anybody in the world. So the Golden Greek Award is probably my most my most coveted award that I feel that I've won.
Now, is the Golden Greek Award related to Demetrius Avanis, who they used to call the Golden Greek?
The Golden Greek, Demetrius Avanis was killed in a plane crash in 1981, and the Texans, who ran Texas Karate at the time, decided to give an MVP for the player that won most in kata, most in weapons, and of course most in fighting. And that year, many years, I lost it by 1 or 2 points to some of my favorite friends and players, but you know, 7 times losing it depressed me. So I concentrated on NBL, NASCA, and other circuits. USKF did very well, but when I turned a little older and 1997 came around, which was 17 years later, I won it as a senior, and that was my highest moment because my career was dwindling down. But of course, I've been very lucky. I worked 30 years for Six Flags, and I was, you know, involved with the business or entertainment aspect of martial arts too.
That's great. So to wrap this up, finish this sentence. I remember when karate was real. It wasn't play. I remember when people had an attitude of respect and admiration toward the heroes. They did something different. It's kind of like the fact that martial arts teaches you the things that your parents teach you, but it's added much more. And mainly I remember coming to the mainland, and this was the first tournament I actually walked into when I came from the mainland, and Mr. Stone actually introduced me to the old man. I mean, out of much respect, I meant Mr. Parker. And I saw the vision of what maybe I could do in the future, never dreaming that I'd create a museum or do the things I've done. I really consider I'm probably one of the luckiest sport karate players in America, just because I've been in the right place at the right time. And my motto is really simple. I'm not the prettiest crayon in the box, but I surround myself by the prettiest crayons. Therefore, I've got great role models. That's great. I just want to say, bro, mahalo nui loa, and it's been a pleasure knowing you all these years since we were young men.
Can I make one more statement?
Sure.
In 1998, my dear friend Sid Campbell, Mako Allenstein, Jim Harrison, Mike Stone, we came up with the idea together to create what we call the History Generals. And Brian, you know, you're one of the History Generals, and Malaya Burnell DeCascos is one, and Mikey Rowe is too. And the History Generals are very important because they're the consultants for the National Sport Karate Museum. And the museum was built on one purpose only, not ego, no Hall of Fame, protecting the history one warrior at a time. And that's the heart of the museum. And it's not a matter of what you won or who you are. It's a matter of what you contributed to American sport karate and your heart. And I really believe that's my aha moment when the museum was opened last year after 16 years, and Mr. Mike Stone came and cut the ribbon. And it was very, very emotional. So, I love you, Brian Fung.